Welcome Sustainable SDSU. So this month's spotlight is CJ Spears, and she's working on her own business that incorporates a lot of sustainability factors. So we get to listen to her story and her inspirations right now. So welcome CJ. Could you just go through exactly what your company does and what even inspired you to do it?
Totally. Thank you for having me. My name is CJ, and I'm one of the founders of Roots Collective. Essentially, plastic is choking our oceans, and we refuse to let it continue. Our mission is to create jobs in Ghana that contribute to a cleaner ocean, community education and empowerment, and restorative trade between Ghana and California by producing bags with a purpose. We're building a community center in Ghana that will host beach cleanups and community workshops. We value environmental justice, the basic rights of all living beings, and indigenous empowerment. I'm partnering with the family I made while studying abroad in Ghana last year, and we're manifesting this collective to honor the ocean, our ancestors, and the generations to come.
That is beautiful, and that's awesome how you came up with the inspiration from going there yourself. Did it kind of just hit you while you were there?
It hit me so hard. It hit me like a tsunami wave. I love the beach, I love the ocean, and it took me a while to go into the ocean when I was in Ghana because that's the same ocean that the same shores they stole my ancestors from. So knowing that so many of my ancestors were in the bottom of the ocean and just the Atlantic Ocean in general, I was I was scared. But the first time I went in, it was so welcoming and loving, and it got to a point where I would go to the beach every week to just play with the ocean and say I love you and let it just cleanse me. It was a very spiritual thing for me. So when I started going more often, I made friends on the beach. The little kids that were always around would show me how to do backflips and make surfboards out of pieces of wood, and then I noticed how much plastic was in and around the ocean, surrounding the community, and it was just this is so unacceptable. And so many points on the issue is so unacceptable. It's not only affecting the ocean, it's affecting the community, These fishing communities, a lot of the families inside are oh, my dad's a fisherman and my mom sells fish. So when you start pulling in more plastic than fish, you can't pay your kids' school fees. And that's why I made so many young friends on the beach, because they weren't going to school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you see other kind of things similar to your business over there, just naturally?
Yeah, we did. There's a growing network of entrepreneurs and environmentalists in Ghana, and we basically just want to support that network. We're already connected with the recycling program on the University of Ghana's campus and other organizations and businesses that are repurposing plastic, whether that be in a creative or entrepreneurial way. So we're just trying to combine a lot of these elements together to properly create some sort of infrastructure for the scale of these efforts to just go wider to the rest of West Africa and eventually the world.
Yeah, and you said you were partnering with what organizations to do this, or just the family? This
is a family affair. It's a bunch of CSU students and UC students that went abroad the same time as me, alongside a couple from Cameroon, a fashion designer and a journalist who will be helping us with the center. And we also are really connected to the Rasta community in Ghana. They're very serious environmentalists. They're probably the most integrity I've seen from any lifestyle group in terms of environmentalism.
Why do you think the Rasta community has so many sustainability ties?
Well, I think definitely their Afrocentricity, they're connected to the source where they come from, which is Africa, and the indigenous practices that have been long-standing for thousands and thousands of years in Africa have always been a spiritual connection to Mother Nature and an understanding of God as everything. The interconnectedness of all living beings is a basis for African spirituality. And Rastafarianism isn't even really an ism or a spirituality, it's a way of life. So it goes beyond veganism, which is this is how I eat. It goes beyond the natural hair movement, which is this is how I wear my hair. It incorporates every single aspect of your life in a way that's so intentional and so integral that it's I don't know, they're just really with it. I don't know. It's this is how they are.
Yeah, and I wonder the beginnings of that. It's so intriguing to know where that first started from.
Yeah, they all come from Africa and they talk about it all the time. And that's my other thing too, is just reorienting this environmentalist movement towards one of indigenous knowledge and awareness, and uplifting the people who know where they come from and who know the traditions of their ancestors, and putting them on a platform so that they can teach us what we need to know. Because most of these trends towards environmentalism and, oh, let's stop climate change, it's like, my ancestors have been saying this for hundreds of thousands of years. So we just need to listen to them.
Yeah, and so many of these things are historical. These same sort of problems were affecting
cycles.
Yes, completely. And so if we can learn from that, that's where the true change is. And I'm so appreciative that you're channeling these thoughts and these inspirations into doing something. And I was just wondering, where do you get the plastic for the bags that you make?
Yeah, we hosted a couple beach cleanups. We hosted like 3 to 5 beach cleanups, and throughout that time we definitely picked up at least 1 ton of plastic. So over the summer we used those. All the prototypes we have are like plastic that we picked up from the beach.
So do you think you need to have more beach cleanups, or do you think you have like enough to
Definitely
manufacture
need to have more beach cleanups, just for the fact that, like, I mean, I have the statistics somewhere else if you need them for the article or anything, but there's like tons of plastic that get drained and sent out to the ocean every day in Ghana. Like tons.
Yeah.
So 1 ton from 3 to 4 or 5 beach cleanups is not going to stop the issue. And that's why we have to tie the beach cleanups with initiatives of awareness around Ghana and West Africa, to let people know what plastic does to our environment, to our bodies, to our spirit, and how we can properly reuse and not have to use plastic. It just is a different scenario in West Africa, where a lot of places you don't drink the tap water, you have to buy water that is bottled or bagged, and they do that with plastic. So it's a whole nother issue when you need this little plastic bag to drink water.
Yeah. And here we don't, like, we have so many different options.
Yeah.
But and so when you're doing these beach cleanups and when you're choosing what goes into the bag, what kind of plastics do you see the most, and which ones do you find most useful for your product?
The water sachets have been most useful. They're very flexible in plastic bags, 2 sides. They hold 500 milliliters of water, and I think it takes at least 20 of them to make one of our bags. So that's something that's really easy to pick up and to maintain. I mean, that's like 5 days worth of drinking water can turn into a backpack.
Yeah. Wow. So when you're going through this whole process, starting business is like a crazy venture, but who are your inspirations, if you have any businesses or just people that you look up to?
I would definitely say Madam CJ Walker, the first woman billionaire in this country, a self-starter, a true entrepreneur and hustler. Nobody gave her the resources to become who she became, but she did it anyways. Alongside my mother, an East Oakland native, a doctor, you know what I'm saying? These are just the type of women that I've always looked up to growing up, and they've always given me this sense of like, nothing in life is gonna happen unless you make it happen, or unless it was really made for you, or both. So it's like going with what was truly made for me and going with what I was truly made for and sticking to it to the end, that's something that's in my genes. Yeah.
And you're right, nothing's gonna land on our table. We have to just kind of search for it. So thank you for sharing. And then as you've started this, first of all, when did this first start? Like the first?
I mean, technically the first beach cleanup was like around this time last year, maybe like a couple weeks before this time last year. But then me and my friends started getting real serious about it, like maybe 4 or 5 months later, when we recognized that we could clean up all the plastic we want, but there's a serious systematic issue about the way that waste is picked up and taken out in Ghana. Like, they just basically dump. Like, there's no like garbage truck. There are garbage trucks and garbage services, but it's extremely different. It's privatized. They send them out to dumps. Like, you're not reusing, or like, it's crazy. And I can, like, any other follow-up questions you have, I have statistics and actual facts, but we realize about the systematic issues and the fact that it's like, so we have to build a whole infrastructure for this to actually be effective as a solution. And I think also when we went to Kokrobite one time, Kokrobite Beach, to do a major beach cleanup with our program, and we actually had to meet with the chief of the land first to, like, because it was a major initiative that we were starting, and we brought him some alcohol and shook his hand, looked him in his eyes, and told him what we wanted to do. And the chief was kind of just like, so are you another group of international students that wants to feel better about coming to a less developed country? Or are you actually here for my community and you actually want to commit to this? And I was like, I really care. So at that point for me, it was a major shift, like shaking his hand and being like, I'm going to come back.
That's a great question for him to ask too, because a lot of people, I think the biggest difference between those two options is that one's temporary and one's long lasting, and yours is long lasting. Like,
seriously,
you're thinking about the infrastructure
the
and
next 7
level.
generations.
Exactly. So what are some of the obstacles you faced throughout this? And I know this was like last year when the first seed was planted.
Yeah, I think definitely realizing how deep the problem was. From awareness of plastic to actual policies on plastic to rates of unemployment in Ghana and miseducation and a lack of like authentic education across the world, and just in general getting a better understanding of like the disconnectedness. Like I say Africa and so many people just blank out because they're like, oh, that's not where I am. We talk about the ocean, we talk about the living things, we talk about the future, and we don't feel enough love or connectedness to really get up and do something. So trying to just spread love and connectedness and realizing how hard that actually is. That was a big challenge. To also recognizing my privilege and the fact that all the responsibility I have because of all the privilege I have, that was a challenge. But I think, seriously, ever since coming back to SDSU, it's been hard to get funding. Which is crazy because the school has so much funding and y'all really care about sustainability, and that's why I'm glad this is like my first spotlight in the sustainable sphere of this whole campus. And I feel like I have a really great idea, and I don't know why. I went to Zip Launchpad, I went to the Entrepreneurship Center. Pretty much nothing.
Do you have future plans on where to go next with this?
The people, the masses, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Instagram. We're dropping an Instagram this week.
Social media has taken off. That's the craziest way to reach people at a touch of, a thumb.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're doing that. And it's a part of this whole project is awareness. And once people know about it, they'll want to support it. So this is really awesome. What advice do you have for others who are going through the same sort of thing or have an idea but don't know how to implement it?
I would say that you need to find your why. You need to figure out why you are truly doing this, and that goes into who you are as a person. So you need to take time aside every day to sit and reflect and understand yourself truly. Ask about where you come from. Talk to your parents about your lineage. Discover your passions, pursue them, look at what makes your heart happy and follow that path, and stick to it.
What you said, like, find your why, find who you are. What have you learned about yourself through this entire process, if you have anything? I
learned that I'm really not an exception to the stereotypes that people expect from me when they see me and they see, okay, young black girl, dark-skinned girl from Oakland. I'm really a product of my environment. I'm a product of all of these challenges and obstacles and things that I had to face and stereotypes that they threw in my face. And because of all of that, that's why I'm doing this excellent work, honestly. It's not in spite of that. And it's just like embracing everything about me that I used to hide in these spaces. And just being like, I have an authentic, honestly good initiative that people should support.
And you have the intention behind it, and that's what really matters.
Yeah.
So do you have anything you want to add or anything we didn't cover that you want to share with the community?
I've got prototype product feedback forms that I'll send you the link to.
Okay.
So it's a 10-question thing that's going to help me figure out my pricing. We're always building our team. We're looking for impact investors and people who are willing to pre-order bulk purchases of bags. So for sure, leave my contact information there, and I'm open to collaboration.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking to Sustainable SDSU, and I'll link all the information and we're just excited to spread this information.
Me too.
So thank you, and
Thank you
we'll see you
too.
next time.
Okay.